Hey, welcome back to another episode of Toku 101, your crash course on rubber-suited men fighting rubber-suited monsters. Last time, we went over the basics and the history of Tokusatsu as a genre, and if that intrigued you, then you're probably looking at the intense amount of content available and wondering where to begin. So today, we'll be going over some of the best places to start when getting into this genre. As a general suggestion, just about anywhere with any franchise is a decent place to begin, but if you're looking for a more specific suggestion, there are plenty of places to dip your toes in. Probably the most common and easiest pathway into Toku is through Power Rangers. Most people that I've talked to got into it because they're Power Rangers fans, did some googling, and ended up jumping into Super Sentai. If that applies to you, then generally, I'd suggest starting with the Sentai equivalent of whatever your favorite Power Rangers show is. Sometimes you'll end up getting a really similar show like Shinkenger, or something totally different like Go-Wanger. But if you didn't get in through Power Rangers yet still have an interest in Toku, Sentai is still a pretty good place to begin due to how simplistic the series generally is. Some, if not plenty, of people will disagree with me on this, but I'd really suggest starting with Kaizoku Sentai Gokaiger. This show celebrated the franchise's 35th anniversary and served as a tribute to every Sentai prior. The Gokaigers themselves utilized the powers of previous teams, even transforming into them, and a ton of actors returned to reprise their roles. You are going to get the most out of the show with some Sentai experience, but it still serves as a good jumping off point for newbies, giving a glimpse into Sentai's illustrious history. Who knows, maybe you'll see a suit you like or a character you think is cool and then watch their show. Other Sentai I'd recommend include Juken Sentai Geki Ranger, QQ Sentai Go-Go 5, and Tokume Sentai Go Busters. If Sentai doesn't catch your interest though, there's always Kamen Rider, my personal favorite. Rider doesn't really have that easy entry point that Sentai does through Power Rangers, since neither of the two attempts to bring it to the West were all that popular. If you manage to catch and enjoy Masked Rider or Kamen Rider Dragon Knight though, then you can check out their source shows, Kamen Rider Black RX and Kamen Rider Ryuki respectively. But if you, more than likely, didn't see those, then you're gonna have to just dive right into the deep end. Every show is mostly self-contained, so you don't need to worry about seeing previous shows before watching something. My go-to recommendation is always Kamen Rider Double, partially because it's where I started, and partially because it's just rad as hell. Double follows hard-boiled detective Hidari Shotaro and his partner Philip. Together the two solve local crimes in Futo, the Windy City, and battle creatures called Dopans. Double is unique in that the main rider is, as the show loves to say, a 2-in-1 Kamen Rider. Both Philip and Shotaro are double, which is a concept that no other rider show has done, save for a couple of forms in different shows. Each episode is its own contained little detective story, figuring out what Dopan is related to the issue, and the overall plot is full of mysteries relating to Philip's past, the origin of the Gaia memories that created Double and the Dopants, and what exactly is going on in Futo. Basically, if you like mysteries or detective movies, Double is right up your alley. Other Kamen Rider series I'd suggest starting with are Kamen Rider Drive, which is also a good next show to go to if you enjoy Double since it's written by the same guy, Kamen Rider Agito, Kamen Rider Build, and Kamen Rider Kabuto. Now if you're big into Godzilla or just anything about giant monsters in general, Ultraman is going to be your go-to. Ultraman is unique compared to Sentai and Rider in that it does have a full continuity, with all of the shows taking place in the same universe and some Ultras making repeat appearances across the franchise. That said, with some exceptions, you still don't need to have seen any previous Ultra shows to enjoy any given series. The best place to begin as far as I'm concerned is Ultraman Max. This series is a good entry point mostly because it's pretty bare bones. Save for the last handful of episodes, Max doesn't carry much of a story, so it's actually kinda reminiscent of the origins of the Ultra series. A bite-sized kaiju story on your TV every week without an overall plot to keep new viewers out. What makes Max especially good to me though is that it focuses so much on good old fun. Any given episode carries this carefree vibe and brings a lot of good quality monster fight and action to the table. The highlights though are when Max just gets freaking crazy. Look, there's an episode featuring creatures called Space Cats, and it's frankly the greatest thing I've ever seen. Max is a perfect jumping on point if you're somebody who just wants to kick back and enjoy a kinda dumb, incredibly fun show. Other Ultra shows worth checking out are Ultraman Tiga, Ultraman Orb, and Ultraman Ginga S. And now, we move into the black sheep of this bunch, Metal Heroes. This series is probably the least likely one you'll be getting into, as it's comparatively pretty obscure. Even Toei doesn't really acknowledge this franchise, only really bothering to bring back new versions of some of the major heroes. For a while, Metal Heroes was actually pretty dead in the fandom, but lately people have sprung up to fix this, so now there are decent ways to get into it. Once again, with some exceptions, none of these shows are connected, so you can start wherever. I'd personally suggest Uchu Keiji Gavan, the first entry in the franchise. It's a bit of an older show, so there's no real plot to speak of, just being made up of a bunch of episodic plots that pretty loosely form a narrative. Like Max, what makes this show great is a bunch of fun. Added onto that though, Gavan is really damn weird. Like, every episode has something bizarre happen. You've got dolls with laser eyes, women who run around town mind-controlling guys by sticking their fingers up their asses, and whatever the fuck this is. Gavan is a trip, and absolutely worth watching, even if you're not really a fan of episodic shows. As far as other Metal Heroes go, since a lot have only really recently been subbed, I haven't seen very many, but ones that seem cool are Chojinki Metalder, Sekai Ninja Senjiraya, and Blue SWAT. So, there you go. That should be a decent overview of things to help you get started as a new viewer of this insanity that we call a genre. Now, as far as actually watching these goes, that can be a bit tricky. So the next episode of this will be devoted to that. Tune in next time to find out ways to watch Tokusatsu. That's all for now, and I will see you guys next time.